Rarity tossed and turned in her sleep. She dreamed she was flying over Ponyville, all the ponies beneath her cheering for her. She showered them with fresh oats and water, the liquid glistening in the sun. As the water fell, the mist left behind created rainbows that trailed behind her as she floated above her adoring town. She followed the rainbows with her gaze and found that they led not to her, but to the pony she was standing on. Oh, silly me! Of course, I can't fly. I'm standing on top of Rainbow Dash. Rarity bent down and hugged her friend around the neck, but Rainbow Dash said nothing. She just kept flying around in circles, the ponies beneath Rarity jumping and reaching for her. But as she looked down, she noticed that some of the faces in the crowd were growing mean. Some pony yelled, then another, and then the cheering was gone and snarls of rage came from the crowd. Recoiling in fright, Rarity tried to pull Rainbow Dash up further away from the crowd. To Rarity's horror, however, she only began to descend at a deeper angle. Slowly, around and around, Rainbow Dash flew, her circle constricting as her altitude dropped. The ponies grew fiercer with every inch, their hooves raking the air just inches from Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash, please, I need you. Rarity yelled at the mute pony below her, but there was no answer. You died for me, darling. You let me lead these ponies. Don't let me die to them. A pony jumped and clamped down on Dash's hoof, dragging her down instantly. Rarity tumbled from the back and onto the crowd, and Dash was gone. The rabid faces of her citizens leered above her before the circle of light closed, and she screamed. Rarity, what's wrong? Rarity scrambled madly, tangling herself in her sheets and falling off the bed. She felt herself hauled to her feet, and a moment later, a lantern was lit. The outline of Applejack was revealed, her face concerned. Rarity, I could hear you screaming all the way down the hall. You okay, Sugar Cube? Rarity breathed deeply and tried to quiet her heart. Yes, I'm fine, Applejack. But thank you for the concern. Just a bit of a nightmare, I'm afraid. She sat down on the edge of her bed. Yes, just a random nightmare. Happens to the best of us, right? Applejack sat down next to her, her face stubborn. You'll forgive me if I don't buy that, Rarity. You screamed out Rainbow Dash's name, so I don't think random is out of the question. She put the lantern down on the night table and turned to her friend. If you don't want to talk about it, I understand. But no need to lie to me, Sugar Cube. I'm sorry, Applejack. I'm just confused is all. She waited for a moment, but Applejack was all ears. Not wanting to shoo her friend away rudely, she let herself open up. For so long I believed Rainbow Dash sacrificed herself for us. But to look up to her for so long, and then to find out she's the enemy? But not really an enemy. But she hates me. She trailed off and looked sheepishly at Applejack. Like I said, confusing. I know what you mean, Rarity. You always told me that Dash gave you strength to lead these ponies. She raised a hoof to her face, stifling a yawn. Just remember, Sugar Cube, you always did your best. Whatever reasons Rainbow Dash had for doing what she did, she betrayed us. You've got to be strong enough to lead these ponies without, or even against her. I hope I am, Applejack. I just don't know what to think anymore. I just need some time to clear my head. She looked longingly at her bed. It would just be nice if I could sleep peacefully, too. Applejack sniggered and stood, looking down at her friend. Well, Rarity, I can't help you much there. I'm always here if you need to talk, Sugar Cube, and I'll be staying here as long as it takes you to feel better. Just give me a yell whenever you need me. With a final smile, she turned and left. Rarity lay down on the bed, and turned around and turned down the lantern to a soft glow, letting it keep the dark from the room at bay. Rainbow Dash is no longer a friend, she thought. I can't afford to let her be. She may have let me live, but she would kill every pony here if she had the chance. Not to mention, she's arrogant, self-righteous, a traitor. Listing the captain's faults helped Rarity to fall asleep, the thoughts substituting themselves for arguments for why the captain was wrong. Just beneath the surface, however, she knew that she was putting off the inevitable. Sooner or later, she would have to face the captain's accusations. The next morning, Twilight awoke peacefully. By habit, her mind scrambled through the previous day's events, trying to remember the horrible tragedy that was due to befall them all today. To her surprise, she found nothing. Smiling a little to herself, she got out of bed and made breakfast. Her new house was 2 stories and rather ornate for New Ponyville, something she felt a little guilty about. But there was no imminent danger for her and her friends. No pony was about to die, and Rainbow Dash was stuck in her house and physically unable to hurt herself. For the first time since she arrived in this world, Twilight Sparkle had a chance to relax. As she munched on some mushrooms, she pulled a notebook across the table to her. Idly, she began calculating and reasoning, trying to find why they had come here. Free time had been rare in the last few days, but the notebook boasted an impressive collection of random figures, long equations, and ornate doodles. She sighed, and this new equation proved itself contradictory. Perhaps I'm going about this all wrong, she thought. This is something no pony has ever done before, teleporting a non-unicorn pony to another dimension. She sighed and finished her breakfast, pushing the notebook away from her. If only there was some book, any book, on the subject. Developing my own research would take years, and even then would require cruel experiments on other ponies. She looked at the book again for a long moment, and reluctantly pulled it back towards her. If she had the opportunity, it would be an insult to Dash to not help them both get home. She flipped through the pages with her magic, scanning all of her work. Is there some sort of pattern I'm not seeing? I know my math is right, but it all comes out wrong. Always wrong. Always self-contradictory, like a regular pattern? At first, Twilight scoffed at the thought, but after a moment she caught herself. Okay, fine. Technically all that means is that my math is probably not wrong. But if my math isn't wrong, that means my premises are wrong. But only my premises are what I've read about in other books by more learned ponies. And if those are wrong, then who knows what's right? She sighed, plopping her head down in between the pages of the book. Of course, they were wrong. No pony had ever done this before. She had only ever read theories on the subject, since no pony actually knew how to teleport between dimensions. Her next step promised a lot of work in her future, but it was unavoidable. Wincing a little at the sound, she magically pulled out every page that she had written on from the book. Okay, start from the beginning. Ignore what other ponies have said. What do I know about teleporting? Rainbow Dash opened her eyes as she heard a knock on the door. Adjusting herself a little in bed, she called out, "Come on in, Twilight." The door opened a crack to reveal the face of an orange pony. "It's me, Dash. Can I come in?" Rainbow Dash nodded and Applejack entered the room. Both ponies avoided each other's gaze, not fully comfortable in each other's presence. Rainbow Dash tried to wait patiently for her visitor to say whatever she had come to say, but the room was quickly getting awkward. "So, Applejack, how are ya?" Rainbow Dash mentally hit her head with her hoof repeatedly, but outside she tried her best to smile warmly for her friend. Applejack was obviously off balance, and muttered under her breath to herself. Finally, she gritted her teeth and turned her gaze to Rainbow Dash. "Rainbow Dash, I'm doing well, thank you." She gave a small nod to herself, proud that she had accomplished her goal. Rainbow Dash waited patiently for more to come, but Applejack just stood there. Was there, something I could help you with, Applejack? The orange pony started, remembering why she had come. Oh, right. Well, this ain't easy to say, Dash, but I think I need to get it off my chest. She struggled to find the next words, trying to pull her next words tactfully. I wanted to apologize, actually, for myself and Rarity. Dash blinked. All of this tension for an apology? Sorry? For what, Applejack? For not listening to you and Twi. I was downright stupid to call for their deaths so soon. I should have pushed her to pump those shadow bolts for information first. But instead I got all caught up in, well, I don't rightly know what happened, to be honest with you. She looked down at the floor, kicking a hoof back and forth. And so I'm sorry in advance for what's coming next. I'm worried about Rarity, Rainbow Dash. She woke up last night screaming your name, and I don't know if she has the strength to handle what happened to her. I'm trying to be there for her as much as I can, but, well, it might be better for every pony if you just lay low for a few days, Sugar Cube. Rainbow Dash was slightly torn by this. Sure, she had expected her friends to not fully trust her anymore, but actually hear it was another thing. On the other hoof, Applejack had apologized to her, something that was relatively rare, even in her home world. Rainbow Dash was hurt, but also a little warmed, and the conflict prompted a question. Applejack, I need to know, what do you and Rarity think of me right now? Exactly. You know I would never betray you, right? Applejack looked at Dash, but withered beneath her pleading gaze. I don't know, Dash. Whatever happened to the captain to make her that way? You're obviously the Rainbow Dash we thought we knew. But Rarity? I don't know, Sugar Cube. She's not really doing so hot right now. I don't think she fully understands what happened with the first Rainbow Dash. Never mind you. So you're okay with me here, but Rarity isn't? Dash was glad that she didn't have to put up with the headache that Rarity and Applejack did. She knew who she was, and she knew that the captain was not her at all. Kinda. Yeah, I'm okay, Sugar Cube. I just keep telling myself that you aren't her, and I can keep going until I have time to get things more sorted out. She backed up towards the door, nudging it open. Just be patient with Rarity, okay? I don't really know what's going to happen next, but I'm worried about her. Dash lay back as Applejack left the room. She was just trying to protect her friend, she knew. Rarity was vulnerable right now, and Applejack was trying to look after her as best she could. Dash smiled as she pulled the soft covers up to her chin, sinking back into the bed. Trying to protect a friend was something that Rainbow Dash could understand, and she was willing to be bored if him and Rarity would come out of this okay. Not that I have much choice, she thought, looking at her tied sling. It really was awfully strong for a piece of cloth. The captain's vision swarmed back into focus, just in time to see the hoof come back for another swing. Her head was knocked sideways as this punch caught her in the jaw, blood and spittle flying out of her mouth. Enough! The captain recognized the voice instantly. She didn't need to lift her head to know that Trixie had finally walked into the room herself. The captain heard the royal guard next to her step back, and lifted her head to watch him walk out of the room. The room itself was gray and well lit, though no obvious light source. The captain knew that she was one of Trixie's infamous dungeons below the palace, but where in the labyrinth, she had no idea. She was tied to a chair with a table in front of her, and now Trixie was taking the seat opposite to her. Looking at the captain, Trixie couldn't help but be disappointed. 2 hours in here, and all that her underlings had managed to accomplish were a black eye and a little blood? She made a note to give them a first-hand experience of real torture, after she was done here. On the plus side, the captain's mask had finally been removed. She knew from experience how strong the enchantments on those things were. If a Shadowbolt didn't want his mask off, you had better have a lot of magic at your disposal. Which, of course, I do, Trixie thought to herself. With the face of the captain finally revealed to her, Trixie couldn't help but chuckle to herself. No wonder Nightmare Moon didn't believe that you'd actually been captured by Rainbow Dash. She will, though, in due time. She figured the captain would be sobbing wreck after so much attention by her minions, practiced or not. And she still clung to the hope that the captain's relatively unharmed face was only just an appearance. Her mental image of the captain was shattered when she saw the grin. The grin that said, "Oh, hello, Trixie. I hadn't noticed you there." Trixie hated that grin, and she knew that the captain knew she hated it. Trixie really, really hated the captain. As if to confirm her thoughts, the captain spoke. "Oh, hello, Trixie. I could kill you. You know that, right?" Trixie had to throw her hardballs at the captain, making her afraid, make her tremble, and she'll melt like putty in my hooves. "Yep, but you won't." The captain's grin never wavered. "I know where the rebel base is. I know you were captured and somehow walked out unscathed. And I know that the ponies with you died. I don't actually need a confession from you to execute you, but it would help smooth things along." Trixie gave her own grin at the captain, trying to unnerve her. Beneath her hood, her horn began to glow. "Oh, right. A confession to treason." The captain tried to lean forward and rest her hoofs on the table, but was reminded that they were tied behind the chair. Settled for leaning back nonchalantly, she looked at her captor. "See, here's the position I'm in, Trixie. You and me, we're the right and left hooves of Her Majesty. The interesting thing about that, my good mare, is that we both answer to her, and only her. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, foal. I'm the damned captain of the Shadowbolts, and I report directly to Nightmare Moon." She leaned forward as much as her bindings would allow. "But we both know that's not what this is really about. If you had gotten the go-ahead from Nightmare Moon, I'd be dead already. And that means she doesn't know about this. So why are you keeping me here, Trixie? What are you trying to find out?" Trixie heard that last phrase directly in her mind via the link she had established while the captain was talking. Perhaps trying to worm her way into the captain's head for so many months had given her unnecessary practice when detecting her telepathic tricks. Trixie scowled, faced with the same infuriating grin. She took a deep breath and put on her own mask of confidence, her lip curling on one side. "Captain, you're right. Nightmare Moon will never know about this little talk. You've been an annoyance to me for months. That little trick, a little tick, that I could never quite detach. But I've got you now, and soon Nightmare Moon will believe that you betrayed her." The captain's grin wavered just a bit, giving Trixie all the reasons she needed to keep going. "You're no longer a threat to me, Captain. You're just another Pegasus. One who got in my way and was dealt with in due time. I dare say the Nightmare Moon will find it all too believable that the infamous Rainbow Dash harbored loyalties to her childhood friends all along once I drag your body back." She raised her hoof, inspecting the edges down to the slight of her nose. "You're mine now, Captain, for as long as I decide to keep you alive. So, to answer your question, I'm not trying to find anything out. I'm keeping you here because I want you to see me burn down that precious town that you were protecting. I'm not protecting it, fool. You arrested me before I even made my report. When Nightmare Moon finds out about this, she'll kill you for treason, if not incompetence. The captain was no longer smiling, which made Trixie grin all the more. Sadly, Captain, you'll never have the chance to give that report. You see, me and my royal guards are on our way back now to that blasted town, where we will stumble upon you just as you're exiting the gates. Seeing me, you will attack me viciously with several of your new friends, and I will have no choice but to defend myself. Trixie couldn't help but give a little laugh, commending her own brilliance. I'll have someone sent in to prepare you, Captain. After all, we both know that you'd never give up without a fight. I'm off to finish my report on how you attacked your lieutenant as proof of your loyalty to the rebels. It's rather heartbreaking, actually. Trixie could hear the captain struggling in her bonds, and knew she had hit a nerve. She stood and walked out the door, making her way towards her office. Her army was ready. New Ponyville lay exposed, and the captain had been removed. As she passed under the vaulted window, Trixie couldn't help but feel a warm glow inside. The sense of imminent victory coursed through her like a drug, empowering her to prepare even faster.